Welcome everyone to the Hurting Humanity channel. Everybody out there should know that one of the key elements needed in a new world order is a cashless society, a digital currency society. That means that in order to participate in society, cash will no longer be king, which means cash will no longer be in circulation. And I talked about Donald Trump making the commitment to make the United States of America the world capital of crypto. And of course, the majority of people who love cryptocurrency have made a lot of money in cryptocurrency. So they don't want to believe that cryptocurrency is a controlled currency by the government. They think it's independent of the Federal Reserve. It's independent and unregulated by Big Brother. And that couldn't be further from the truth. If anybody wanted to make up their own currency and escape from the Federal Reserve, the government would come and arrest you or end your life on the spot. None of us could come up with our own creation of a currency, a physical currency especially. You would be eliminated immediately. So the government knew that they needed to get people on board with a cashless society. So they started things like crypto, pretending like some invisible man behind the curtain invented this idea of cryptocurrency. And what they've been doing is conditioning people into how cryptocurrency works, how blockchain works, while at the same time making them very wealthy. So for anyone out there that's new to all of this stuff, a new world order runs on a cashless society. Even the World Economic Forum openly talking about who will be king in a cashless world. And for anybody that doesn't understand why it's so important for a cashless society, it's because it's a system of control. Remember when talking about artificial intelligence and talking about the internet, if everything runs, if all currency runs through the internet, that means that the government has full control over every single transaction. So in other words, you might have a $20 bill on. You might want to go and buy something with that $20 bill. You might want to exchange that $20 bill with an individual who might have something that you want. Maybe you want to buy a cake from somebody, or maybe you want to buy a soda, or whatever you want to buy with cash, right? That is a transaction that cannot be seen by the government's eyes. It's a transaction that could be made without even a receipt occurring. They need full control, so they need everything to be cashless, and everything will run through the internet. That's why I've talked about the internet and the concept of the beast actually being artificial intelligence and the internet when we talk about the mark of the beast. Because remember, in Revelation chapter 13, verse 17 and 18, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. And of course, the internet created where? The World Wide Web was created at CERN. Of course, there's going to be people who argue where the internet was actually created, if it was a creation of DARPA. Well, officially, WWW, the World Wide Web, was created at CERN in 1989. And WWW, for anybody out there that doesn't know, WWW in traditional Hebrew equals 666. So think about how they've made us accustomed to using the internet, how we've become accustomed to making the majority of our transactions through the World Wide Web. And of course, how they've made people addicted to using the internet. If people don't have a cell phone or a computer or the internet for one day, their heads explode. They've done that by design to get you used to and accustomed to constantly having to do everything through the World Wide Web, the beast. Eventually, you will need a mark to be able to use the internet, to be able to buy or sell. Notice all of the stores and malls shutting down, how businesses have decided to pick up groceries, selling groceries like Walmart and Amazon, done by design to get you accustomed to doing this all over the internet. And again, the outbreak that just occurred was to get you accustomed to doing all of these things over the internet, to making all transactions via the web. And don't forget CERN's logo very obviously has the 666 right in it. Somebody didn't just come up with an idea and say, let me scribble something together and I'll put CERN in the middle of it as our logo. It is there for you to see. It's for people with eyes to see and ears to hear. So that brings me to this. If we have to get to a cashless society for the New World Order, for the mark of the beast, we have to remove cash from society. I've covered this for a couple of years, talking about little ways they've been trying to convince you to get rid of change and eventually get rid of cash. Now, they've kind of forced this into the marketplace where a lot of stores are not accepting cash now. You probably have seen some of the videos I've done on stadiums where they want you to use biometrics to get into stadiums. And then inside of the stadium, they want all transactions to be cashless, whether you're buying food, a soda, a beer, or clothing at the store. If you're at a baseball game, they want it to be cashless. So they've eased it in without telling you it's going to be forced in. And part of the thing with the outbreak as well was they were trying to take coins and cash out of circulation, not just by locking you inside, but the government came out and said that, well, their disease was passing via people exchanging coins and exchanging money. Now, the propaganda didn't work as well as they wanted it to, but we see that the Conservative Party has their foot on the pedal because it's very easy to distract these people who think they're awake to the New World Order with nonsensical issues while they're bringing it right in front of our faces, right? While Donald Trump is talking about AI governance. So now you have Elon Musk's Doge, which I talked about, this government efficiency group that they've started where they're going to eliminate humans and replace it with AI. Well, now Elon Musk is coming for the penny, and that might sound like nothing to you. You might hear that and say, well, Canada doesn't have a penny, and do I really ever use a penny? And of course, they've been conditioning you with getting rid of change for quite some time. You may notice every time you check out at a store now, they want you to round up your spare change. You notice that? That's also part of the deception and part of the philanthropy deception I've exposed over the years, trying to make you feel like a good person. You're actually giving your money right back to the same corporations that control you, but they tell you that it's going to a charity. They've conditioned you with things like you round it up. This is all about removing change. And here is something that aired on Fox Business about removing the penny. And of course, all they need to do is convince people out there that it's costing them tax money to create the penny. So they'll end up getting more money back if we remove the penny. And of course, people out there will say, yeah, what is the big deal? I throw penny. You know, what's a penny? I don't even know if I have pennies, what I do with pennies. They're too hard to store. They go into this in deep detail because this is how propaganda works, telling you that the jar you store pennies in is more expensive than the actual amount of pennies you can store in it. These are tactics that they're using. And listen closely as they convince you to get rid of the penny, how the next thing up is how we lose money on the nickel as well, because that's how it works. Get rid of the penny, get rid of the nickel, get rid of the dime, get rid of the quarter, one by one by one. We don't need change. We do it digitally, and then get rid of paper cash eventually and have everything controlled through the beast system. Here they are talking about getting rid of the penny as a cost-cutting mandate.
The Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, is setting its sights on the U.S. penny. Lydia, who is here with me now. So we going to end production of the penny, Lydia?
You know what, Brian? DOGE is certainly reigniting this debate around the penny because I'm going to call this an open secret that's been circulating in Washington for decades, that it costs more to make a penny than it's actually worth. So help me out here. I have this jar full of pennies. You can see it right here. How many pennies do you think are in this jar? Do you want to take a guess?
Oh, I think there's 300 in there.
I'll take 301.
You're both wrong. It's actually 500 pennies.
No kidding.
So check my math, but that's $5 worth of pennies.
That is.
But the cost to make this jar, by today's standards, more than $18. Because the cost of a penny today to make it is about 3.5 cents. Why is that? It's because the cost of zinc, which is a primary component of the penny, has just escalated so much. So last year, DOGE is pointing out that we spent $119 million on pennies, but we created only roughly $32 million of value circulating into the economy. So you might ask yourself, why are we still making all of these pennies? The answer is because some of our transactions in our economy are still based in cash. Think about all the small businesses that are still cashing out for that pack of gum that you want. They need a penny to give you change. But now, maybe you're like me and you just say, you know what, Madison, you keep that change. I don't need that change like jingling around in my pocket. That's what Canada is recognizing. Canada years ago actually eliminated the penny, and they made all of their transactions actually round up to the nearest nickel, so they could just create some efficiency there. There's some controversy about that. Some people say you're actually just costing the consumer more money by doing that. We actually need our penny. So Doge is starting this conversation around what do we do with the penny? And the really interesting part is that Congress could actually make a decision about what to do with the penny, but the Treasury Secretary could also make a decision here. So that's a good question for Scott Besson.
I don't know about that rounding up thing. That sounds kind of like a bad deal. I'm a guy that takes my pennies back. Sorry if that makes me cheap. I bet Stewart does too, though.
Well, it's a really good point because the cost to make a nickel too is actually higher than 5 cents. It costs about 14 cents there.
Wow. And somehow
material costs.
You got a whole.
So, of course, most conservatives, most people out there, they've convinced them. And look, if you look at the majority of people who are into crypto, these are people who are conservative. A lot of them, I'm not saying that there aren't Democrats who aren't invested or into crypto, but they are the ones who are anti-Federal Reserve, who kind of are at this very low level awakening where they realize the Federal Reserve, how corrupt they are, the Rothschilds, right? So they want to oppose the Federal Reserve. And they think that they're actually opposing it by getting involved in crypto, that they're stepping away from a corrupt, tyrannical government global system. But really, the crypto is the cashless government system. It's just given a name that people think are independent, like Bitcoin or Ethereum. It's all controlled by the same thing. So you heard at the end of that video, even throwing in, hey, the nickel loses money as well. And that's how deceitful they are. That's how they slide these things in. They plant a seed at the end to get you ready for the removal of the nickel next. And then you'll say, well, I don't really use a nickel anyway. And they'll say, hey, did you see your last tax return? And people say, yeah, did you see you made, $500 extra you got back in your return? I did. Well, that's because of the cost-cutting move of getting rid of the penny. And if we do the nickel, maybe next year you'll save $1,000. You'll get rewarded back, right? And that's all it takes. It's like a bribery system. Bribe people back. Hey, you get your tax return back while we install this enslavement system. Then in a couple of years when we reveal to you that all jobs are now obsolete, that you're going to need a universal basic income, and the money that you had in the first place we've wiped out of your bank account, because that's eventually what's going to occur, and all it's going to take is one grid shutdown. These people won't have a clue what they've allowed to occur. Elon Musk talking about removing the penny. Don't forget that this is a guy who has all of these New World Order ideologies that he's openly bragged about. Universal basic income, the Neuralink, and even Elon Musk talking about paper money going away. A few years ago, he's talked about the removal of paper money. Now, nobody remembers this stuff because they're not going to point it out in the alt-right media. They're not going to point it out on the news. They're going to point out things that Elon Musk tweets about and how wonderful Elon Musk is because you're going to save money on your tax return, right? This is how deceitful they are. For anybody out there that looks at Twitter and sees what Elon Musk does, and it's clearly not Elon Musk who's putting these tweets out. None of them write their own tweets. They probably have a bot, an AI bot that does their tweets, but this is what Elon Musk does, right? This is how they play into the conservatives. So he constantly every day is tweeting now about children. So all of a sudden, guys like Elon Musk care about children and care about trafficking. This is how they play into the conservative heartstring, right? So never forget these 3 girls that went missing. And of course, this is tragic. And people automatically get sucked in because this is, potentially a real story here. They see Elon Musk talking about it. They're like, oh man, Elon Musk really has a heart. He has a heart. He wants to protect these kids. There's nothing more important than protecting kids. Agreed. Agree 100%. There is nothing more than protecting innocent lives. And then in between his tweets, talking randomly about saving children, he does stuff like this. Neuralink has the potential to fully cure paralysis. It's possible from the physics standpoint to restore full body functionality. And he says, I'm confident that this will happen someday. So in between pulling people in, talking about kids, he's talking about the Neuralink, which the majority of these people don't understand what it is. And he play at people by saying, hey, it could restore somebody who's paralyzed. It could give them back full body functionality. And people who aren't paralyzed go, well, that's wonderful for those people. And ultimately, the plan is to get this in everybody, paralyzed or not. This is how they get you to accept this technology in the first place into our society. Then, of course, after tweeting that, in case anybody out there is going, wait a minute, he's pushing the Neuralink, he goes right back to normal stuff, right? Like this, poisoning the minds of children has to stop. It is disgusting, simply disgusting, talking about these things with gender and gender surgeries and people who are getting these things and then realizing it's a mistake. And he says, we immediately need to stop this. Keep in mind, Elon Musk has a child that is transgender. So he's all of a sudden conveniently flip-flopped on that. He's flip-flopped on global. I mean, it's incredible how easy it is to work these people. All you need to do is just what I showed you. Tweet some stuff about kids, pretend like you care about kids, Then tell them everybody that you want to put a brain chip, a Neuralink inside their bodies, but it'll cure paralysis. So they have to go, oh, okay, well, I don't want it, but those people who have paralysis, they might need it. Eventually you're going to be forced into it, or at least tricked into it. And then going right back to stuff about gender. Meanwhile, he plays the part and saying, well, I didn't realize all this stuff. My kid is transgender. Oh, you didn't realize it. You're supposedly the modern day Einstein. And you didn't realize that your kid was tricked in. Of course, you pushed your child into it. And now you're pretending like you didn't want your child to be that. And you're pretending like you care about birth rates and you care about genders being normalized again and not going after kids. That's all how they placate people while doing things like this, removing the penny, bringing in New World Order globalist initiatives without people realizing it. It's as simple as that. So Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency has a new target to cut down costs, the U.S. penny. Joe said that it will that the penny costs 3 cents to make and cost U.S. taxpayers over $179 million in 2023. Okay, that's the important thing to remember. Not because it's costing you tax money, because that's how they convince people, right? It's costing. It's not cost efficient. Wait, it's costing me money as a taxpayer? Well, let's fix that, and then they're suddenly on board. You see a rise in your income tax or whatever you do with your taxes, and you get money back in your tax. However, the corrupt system works. Of course, it's insane how the system works where they convince you to pay your taxes, but then they give you stuff back and you fill all this paperwork out. Oh, I paid this for my car, for my business. Oh, I get 50 cents, but yay for me, right? When the entire thing is nothing more than a Ponzi scheme. But this is the way that it's going now in regards to cashless society. More recently, last year, the New York Times had a story that argued that we need to abolish the coin, right? So liberal outlets want to abolish change. Now conservative ones do. And it's all about how they twist the propaganda to you. And it's important to note when we talk about the Neuralink and neurotechnology, that's the future, right? BlackRock has their own neurotech. Neuralink has theirs. And what that is, both companies develop brain-computer interfaces. BCIs are devices that allow people to control computers with their thoughts. But in reality, it's the other way around. The computers will be able to send thoughts into your mind. And for anybody out there that doesn't understand how crypto works in regards to blockchain, blockchain-based systems enable individuals to update their digital identities or financial accounts directly through Neuralink's BCIs. Okay, so it's like your digital wallet, which will be embedded inside your body. People think it's a crazy notion because they haven't gotten there yet in their awakening. And I use this as the simplest thing to look at. I've used this many times over the years because I know a lot of people, they hear BCI, they hear blockchain, like, I don't know what this stuff is, man. Digital wallet, what? This article from Vice in 2022, which was even covered on Stephen Colbert's show, using humor around it. The plan to put Bitcoin in mouse DNA with a genetically engineered virus. Think about that. Think about nanotechnology, a genetically engineered virus. Does anyone out there remember a genetically engineered virus? Talk of that, even if you believe it was real or not. Well, the plan to put Bitcoin in mouse DNA. So in other words, to edit your genetic code to be able to put Bitcoin in you. And people go, I don't know what that means. Is that like putting a dollar bill in my stomach? Like me eating a dollar or a coin? Well, essentially, yeah. Your whole bank, all this stuff will be biometrical, which means that your bank account, everything will be inside of you. People are like, that makes no sense. They don't understand how it works. So just think about how, they use biometrics with your phone, right? People out there who don't even realize it, right? You use your thumbprint. Now they want to use your retina, right? So in other words, if you have a passkey on your phone that only can be opened, so you can only pick up your phone and get into your phone if it's you via your retina, right? Because it's individual to you. Somebody else can't pick up the phone if that's your passkey and look at it to unlock the phone. It will remain locked, right? Okay, so think about that. Think about being able to go into a store and having biometrics scan you. Eventually just scan your whole body without you even knowing it, knowing what's inside you, embedded in you digitally. That's what we're headed towards. That is what my belief is of the mark of the beast, the mixing of iron and clay, altering your genetic code, making man and machine as one. And that's why I talked earlier in the video about basically just going back to the basics, right? A new world order runs in a cashless society. Why? Why? Because it's full control. That's what this is about. Not about money. It's about full control. They need to convince you into a cashless society. So what have they done? They've made it convenient to go cashless. They've created outbreaks, which have forced you to do what? Buy and sell on the internet. For the time being, the internet is free and anybody can access it. But what about when they turn it off? What about when they tell you you're going to have a Neuralink or some type of mark to be able to access the internet, and say that they create outbreak after outbreak after outbreak, and there are no stores. There's no way for you to get food. The only way you'll be able to buy or sell is through the web, right? Because thankfully we'll have all our Starlinks up above. That'll make sure we never lose access to the internet. You see where I'm going with Skynet and Starlink, which I've exposed many times? That's what we're headed towards. And a cashless society is one of the main key components of the New World Order. And this is how you get there. Little things, little steps. Elon Musk, paper money's going away. We got to get rid of it. Well, how do you get rid of it? Well, you start telling people, first, let's get rid of the penny. Why? Well, the penny costs too much. It costs 3 cents to make 1 penny. Well, that makes no sense. Let's get rid of it, right? Yeah. And then on top of it, we'll give you some tax money back for now, make you feel like you're rich and prosperous. That's going to be part of this over the next 4 years. People are going to become very wealthy, not realizing that all it's going to take, if everything's digital, is a grid shutoff. You shut the grid off, and you go into your Bank of America account or whatever you have. When the grid comes back on and it's at zero and they tell you there was a massive data breach and now everybody has nothing, what are you going to do about it? Nothing. Just like when they locked you down for an outbreak and told you had to put poison in your body and told you that you couldn't have a job unless you did, what do people do? Nothing. They'll do nothing. Because guess what? They'll knock on their neighbor's door and they'll find out that their neighbor has nothing in their bank account. Nobody has anything anymore. The whole thing got breached. But we can start fresh, hence a great reset. And when you start fresh, what ends up happening? Well, everybody has a universal basic income. Everybody's able to do these transactions. We've got to do them all online. And now the safest way to do it, of course, is with a mark. With this won't be hackable anymore, even though you will be hackable. Getting this embedded, you can't have your account hacked. It's all personal to you, which is part of all of the data security breach propaganda you've heard over the last decade. AT&T data breach, McDonald's data breach, Bank of America data breach, all done by design, preparing you for a massive data breach. So people might become wealthy over the next 4 years while they implement AI governance, remove coins, then remove cash, and all of a sudden they remove everything. And there's a blackout for 6 months to a year. But Starlink will still work, but say that during that blackout, they tell you that the boogeyman in Russia who we're at war with nuked all the bank accounts. They hacked in, and now everyone's at zero. There's no way to find the transactions anymore. It was all digital, and they got in there, and they messed it up. Oh, okay. It'd be real easy to do that. But people are just going to be enjoying the wealth that they're going to get and the prosperity. That's what's going to come during this 4-year reign of Trump. People are going to become wealthy. They're going to implement AI infrastructure, remove cash. All the things are going to be put in place as we head to 2030 and Agenda 2030. You'll see. And don't forget what I talked about with blockchain and biometric data and biometrics in general and how this stuff will be embedded in you. And again, point it out to people. Elon Musk, suddenly he's an advocate for children. Anyone ever, do you see how easy it is to manipulate people? Has this guy ever been an advocate for children over the last 15, 20 years? No. You seen his own children? Advocate for children. Try raising your own kids, buddy. Oh, right. He's deliberately raising them that way, right? Telling you that, oh, my kid's trans. I had nothing to do with it. You didn't. You're the father. You have everything to do with it, actually. That's your job, your responsibility, right? Oh, but it's the media, the propaganda machine, right? He's placating people. He's playing them, manipulating them, tweeting nonstop about these things that people get sucked into, them working them with cash. Let's get rid of pennies. Let's get Neuralinks to help people who are paralyzed. That's how this whole thing works. Get rid of the penny, get rid of the nickel, get rid of the dime, get rid of the quarter. What's left? The dollar. Then what? The $5. Then let's just all move it to crypto, and we'll get rid of the Federal Reserve too, and the CIA. Wink, wink. Gotta be a sucker if you're falling for this stuff. Unfortunately, there's many of them out there. Thank you guys for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families as always.